Hi, I'm Gabe Hicks, the host of Tabletop, and I am here today with Rich, who is one of the designers on Esper Genesis. So if you've been here before, Tabletop is a show where we just sit, talk to designers, we talk creativity, we talk ideas, and we have fun. And the little bit that I've taken to look at Esper Genesis, it definitely feels like fun. Rich, will you tell us a bit more about Esper Genesis?
Sure, absolutely. Esper Genesis is a sci-fi universe and game system. Sorry, it runs off of the D&D Fifth Edition engine. So
Mhm.
anybody that's getting into Esper Genesis that's played D&D, they are, all the rules, all the base rules look familiar when you look at the sheet. Obviously a lot of things are a lot more spacey, a lot more sci-fi, but the basic mechanics is kind of like walking into a familiar place, but the furniture's rearranged in a
That's
sense
awesome.
or modernized. And it is set in a galaxy that's actually our own,
Hmm.
centuries into the future, where uh, a whole bunch of different spacefaring species have formed a very fragile alliance,
Yeah.
and they are kind of cooperating over this infinite resource called sorium. It's generated by these artifacts that are floating in space called the crucibles. The crucibles generate this infinite energy that they use to power their cities, their spaceships, pretty much everything that runs life in general is run by this infinite power source. Of
Hmm.
course, when you have this much power, there's going to be a lot of conflict. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. But
Yeah.
uh, humans actually are just kind of new to this galaxy, where like some of these species have been going on this for almost 1,000 years. The setting itself is integrated into the system. So
Hmm.
whenever you make a character right off the bat, your species and your character is already part of the story of the galaxy. Every single player character is what's known as an Esper. Espers are individuals that, after they've been harvesting all of this energy out of the crucibles for all of this time, uh, it began reacting with certain individuals, uh, physically, mentally, down to their DNA, to where they started being able to exhibit the same abilities that the energy was able to. They started becoming capable of transferring matter or converting matter to from one form to another, being able to control gravity, control light, and these special people are known as espers. Every player character is a certain type of esper, and they all have a particular, um, I guess, like an unspoken goal, something
Hmm.
deep inside of them that gives them their nature of what they are. That's the base concept of the setting.
Oh my gosh. How what inspired this?
Everything that I am as a fantasy and sci-fi fan.
That's so fair.
I started doing some stuff for D&D 5e, just for some sci-fi stuff,
Hmm.
and uh, we were kind of wondering what we were going to do with it. What are we going to do with all these mechanics? And I said, well, the mechanics actually need something to build a platform on. So
Yeah.
I started putting together everything that I could possibly find from my childhood, which was Star Wars and Fantasy Star. I was a big Sega kid,
Yep.
and and Firefly, all that stuff that I loved when I was a kid. All the books that I used to read, and all the video games that I played, and I sort of jumbled them together into a galaxy.
Hmm. That's awesome.
Um,
So I'm sure you've
and
talked about
uh,
this with plenty of other people, but I'd like to ask you a question that I hope has not been asked to you yet.
mhm.
What is one of your favorite moments that has happened in running or playing in this game, even while testing?
Uh, you mean like a game moment, or maybe
Anything.
like oh, anything?
Hmm.
Uh, well, okay. I'm gonna separate this into uh two
Do it.
different things.
Do
I
it.
probably as a creator, one of my favorite moments that I saw was that I experienced was actually presenting like the starships and the starship rules
Hmm.
at the table for the first time, and the look of wonderment and like, ooh, I need to get my hands on this from everybody at the table. That was really exciting because it was the first time, other than like I've written, adventures and things like that, but something that I actually created, like, yeah, as far as a game, to see people dive into it and have a fantastic time.
Yeah.
It's one of those feelings, it's one of those really cool feelings.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I guess when I was running one of the first adventures, um, probably one of my favorite moments was or actually coming to an understanding was you have a lot of 5e players and
Hmm.
they're very accustomed to fantasy, so they're on this gravity train that's going out into space, and they're chasing the bad guys on this train, off of a platform, and they just get right into it, right? They're like, oh yeah, roll for initiative, and they're talking numbers, and then somebody turns around and because I just kind of dropped a clue. Oh, you guys, hear a particular sound, some kind of beeping, like an alarm, and someone turns around and goes, "Did somebody shut the door? Did anybody shut the door? They're going out into space." So,
Oh no.
so the little things you don't think about in
Yeah, because like
you know
fantasy, you never have to worry about
you
that.
never
But
have to worry about that.
this is entirely different. You're going into space. You need to consider your oxygen, the atmosphere.
So yeah, that was watching that whole scene play out. That was fun. It's like, yep.
That's awesome.
It's the same game, but it's a different game. So
Very
I had to
cool.
break out the rules for zero gravity and space exposure. So
So what were some of the most interesting rules sets to come up with? Because like the idea of gravity having rules, it both makes sense, but it also sounds like it's the kind of thing that when you execute it well, it'll make sense. But like
hmm
getting it to that well execution, I know is sometimes an experience to say the least.
um, I would have to say, and this counts for pretty much most of the rules that we put in,
Mm-hmm.
most of the new rules for Esper Genesis, is we sort of had to work it in, I guess, of what a reverse method of what people normally would,
Okay.
because what I really enjoyed about fifth edition was the fact that it's simplicity. It's it's not entirely simple,
Mm-hmm.
or they still, the rules do get complex in certain areas, but for the most part they all work off of the same base mechanic,
Yeah.
and the ease of running the game where you can look at it and go, oh, I'll just do this, and it's malleable, and everybody understands what's going on, and it flows smoothly. And I said, well, sci-fi gets very crunchy and very techy, and I said, I can't go down that rabbit hole and make everything overly complicated, because then it's no longer a 5e game. It's some other game that that deconstructed whatever rules were there.
That's a good point.
So I when I was making all the rules, like for gravity, or or for ships, or any of that, I said to myself, okay, well, I made the rules as broad as possible, and said, well, all these different things can happen. How do I take all this complex stuff that most people would get all techie about, and crunch it down to something that'll just flow, where somebody will look at it and go, oh, okay, well, this is how it is. Everywhere else in 5e, this is how it works.
Yeah.
And that was actually more difficult than I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, it's hard figuring out like where the middle ground is, and then after you figure out where it is, how do you signal for people that's where to be?
Right, right.
That's
And
interesting.
it's that writing it out is sort of, you had to say it as plainly as possible, but not to the point of confusion.
Yes.
Um,
Wow. That's a
So
phrase that I want to remember. Say it as plainly as you can, but not to the point of confusion.
yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why? That's wisdom. Like right there. That's cool. Um, was there a so there was it was about the same for all of them. You said, was there any rule set that felt harder than the others to fit for 5e? Because I know like starships, for example.
Yeah, starships was the primary thing. That was the hardest thing. Uh, it was, after I started doing the starship rules, I know D&D came out with their own vehicle rules
Mm-hmm.
later on, like actually just last year or the year before. I don't know.
Okay.
Time is so weird nowadays.
Yes, it is.
But,
Time makes no sense.
yeah, it's like I missed a year.
We
In
all
any
did.
case, yeah, starships was tough because I had to come up with a way to put together rules that functioned like D&D travel and combat,
Mm-hmm.
but for the lack of a better term, in space,
Mm-hmm.
and and in a vehicle that not only gets controlled by one person but can be controlled by multiple people.
Mm-hmm. That makes
And
sense.
that's where the interesting part came in. So the way I broke it down was, I said, well, multiplayer craft, which is probably the most fun part of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I said we're going to make a team mechanic. Everyone's going to have a role, and then that role will be fulfilled, as a crew during a single round. So, like,
Oh,
your
cool.
ship is your creature stat block, and everyone, the crew, kind of, does modifications, and they all have their maneuvers during their turn. And that way you can still run the whole game just like you run ground combat,
Mm-hmm.
but instead everyone's working in unison as one body. And it actually is kind of fun because it creates an even bigger sense of camaraderie and teamwork, because
Yeah.
your decisions affect each other, and everyone kind of has to sometimes make hard decisions on what to do when things go bad.
That's cool.
No.
And especially with like since you're using the like with the 5e system, having everyone have a single like stat block to reference to, I feel like that makes a whole lot of ease if like one person doesn't understand something because everyone's looking at the same thing. And
Yep.
so if someone understands it, it's easier to explain it to everyone else and you're all using it together.
Yep. It is, and even when it comes down to number crunching, because everyone has the same sheet. So if someone's stats are oh, no, you have to add, they get real excited, right? Because
Yeah.
the gunner's down to like their last shot, and they're about to become space dust, and everyone's just looking for, oh no, I see another, like, +2 on your sheet, you got to add that to your
Yes. Yep.
because
Yeah.
I want to survive.
Everyone sees the same stuff so they can help each other in that sense.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense for the camaraderie. I like that a lot. I like that. I like having one thing to look at, uh, because like you said, when you have like new or more experienced players, like at least everyone's looking at the same thing so they can help each other if they need it, and it's easy to explain it rather than like, okay, well we all have these different boat things and
Yeah, and the different, plus when you have a whole bunch of, you just have 5 roles, it's very different than, everyone playing one of a multitude of classes, and
yes.
they're all different. So there kind of has to be, so it's actually also much easier for the game master to run too, because
Fan of that.
it's scaled down.
That's cool. So what? Okay, we talked about what was one of the easiest things. Do you feel like it was to translate this universe to 5e? Like you know what? Like this, the thing that was like, oh, this just works.
Something that was a lot easier than expected was doing, like, basic gear, and how it gets, integrated into character classes, and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
because what, like I said, one of the great things about 5e is that right off the bat, it kind of created a sandbox for you to play in, and the Dungeon Master's Guide, for example, is like a
Yeah.
perfect example of that. Here's how you could basically take and pick apart whatever we just gave you, and and put it into something that works. And I love that about the system. So I when I was doing things like range combat or burst fire or things like that, I said, well, rather than creating again like a whole complex system with like angles and all this stuff, and I'm like, nope, this just does that.
Yeah.
And whether you're holding a gun or someone's holding a gun, someone's holding a sword, it still functions the same way without there being this overly complex uh, system to go through separately.
Yeah.
To do that and to do sorry,
You're fine.
I just lost myself for a second there. To do that was fun. To do the exploration stuff was fun. Because it was like, okay, what happens when you're on a planet with low gravity, and I kind of looked at that and I said, well, let's look at the fantasy angle. What happens, in the magic sense, or what
That's
happens?
true.
Like that stuff was kind of already there, so I just had to simplify it and say, okay, this is what happens in this area,
Yeah.
and that's that. A lot of that was easy without getting into the weeds. That way, you leave it up to the imagination of the game master. You kind of plant the seed.
Yes.
Okay, this is kind of the mechanical effect. You can come up with how it looks like and how it feels, because that's really the role of a game master, or or in D&D a dungeon master, or anything like that. And
Yeah.
because there are millions, if not billions, of stars in the galaxy, you can create whatever setting you want, and you really just only want that base, and then everything else you fill in, it should be up to you.
That makes sense. I like that. I like how open you left it and made it very narrative. Okay, so on Roll20 there are two adventures. Well, I guess
Just
two sessions, I guess, more so, right?
yeah, there's two that I had just it looks like they just released today.
Awesome.
Actually,
It's
and they're both
Basilisk
the first,
Rendezvous?
yeah, Basilisk Rendezvous and Crisis at Talvarius. They are the first two in the first season of the official adventure campaign.
Nice.
For Esper Genesis. There's an intro adventure, Fall of the Eos Keldor, that we've had out for, I guess, maybe about 5 months now.
Oh, wow.
That
Awesome.
was like an introductory adventure into Esper Genesis
Yeah.
before we had the compendium release, so it was kind of giving everybody a taste of what was there.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, you can so you can get the core manual for Esper Genesis for I think 40 on Roll20 right now, and like even the cover of that has what looks to be a gigantic, terrifying creature with tentacles, claws, and lasers coming out of tentacles and their mouth.
That is the Kradron. They're
Nope.
they're like a trans-dimensional being that was forced out from their home. Let's put it that way. Let's put it simply, and then you'll have to read about them. They're actually detailed in the Threats database, which is the other book that's out with all your space monsters and robots and all those goodies that are there.
So cool. So okay, so I was taking a look at like some of the introduction for one of the adventures you have, and it says the adventure is designed for 3 to 7 first level characters, and is optimized for 5 characters with an average party level APL of 1. And so one thing I don't often see like people talk about an average party level and like give a gauge of it. It usually just says for a party of this or a party of this. But also I don't usually see adventures that I feel like are scaled for 3 to 7 first level characters.
Yeah, there are a lot of the early Adventures League adventures actually are sort of done that way as well. They have there's guidance as to what the average party level should be,
Yeah.
and there's a table that covers if you have too many of one type, then you scale the encounter or the combat.
Mm-hmm.
Each encounter or each combat encounter actually has that guidance already there in the adventure, much like the AL adventures. Crucible
Oh.
Core is very similar in theme to Adventures. You can actually let me see if I can dump that in the chat.
Do it.
There is.
Got it.
So, other than espergenesis.com itself, which will actually give you all of the information about the game, the galaxy, all the different species and the classes. There is also the Crucible Core, which is your organized play campaign. So you can
That's awesome.
You can register your name. You get a Crucible Core ID, and that way you can organize games with your friends like an official organized play campaign adventure. Pretty much the same as AL.
Good on you. That's really cool, and it's nice that you have that set up like so early, because like we know Adventurers League, but I don't feel like even just other 5e groups do it as much or in the same way. So
No, yeah, and we haven't really gone into depth with it yet. We kind of held the first season out as the adventures came out, and we've been feeling out the different things that happened in sort of like a beta phase, and then we're now going to be starting after the final book is out. Our second season, where we're figuring out where we're going to diverge from what everybody's used to as far as the organized play.
That's the way to do it.
How to do it for a sci-fi campaign.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so
that way, once conventions start happening again, that's the other reason why we kind of just sort of sat back on it for a while. Is like, well, conventions aren't happening, so
that makes really a lot of sense.
We don't really have organized play to run.
Yeah. Okay. So there are 9 species in Esper Genesis.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite? Like, at least to play or to like use in encounters or narrative or anything like that?
A favorite.
A favorite can be hard.
Yeah. Favorites are tough, especially when you're the one that wrote them out, right?
Yep. So honestly, that's why I asked. I was like, it's gonna be tough, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't really have a favorite exactly. I can't really say I do. Okay. I do know that. I know that going by my other friends that have looked at it, I know they really like the Monokai, the lizard, the lizard species.
There's a lizard species.
Well, yeah, they are honor-bound space lizard samurai, I guess, is kind of I think that's the way that my friend Chris had termed them.
You know what? I have some Roll20 stuff up, so I think now is the time to look at it so we can show off some of the stuff. And it was the Monokai, you said.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if I read off like the snippet right here?
Sure, go right ahead.
These beasts are an amalgam of organic matter and the primordial essence that makes up our universe. Very few understand their antiquated tribal customs and myth-laden practices. Their only known lineage hails from the enigmatic nature of the Batera. Though honor-bound by their own internal code, they are also highly reclusive, which makes me wonder how deep the internal struggles lie between their peoples. And I like a lot that this isn't just like a designer description. This is a quote from someone who had experienced them.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, that lizard is buff and armored and decked out. Hold on, let's go. I literally didn't look at any others because I didn't want to spoil myself, but this might be where I'm at. This is awesome. I'm a fan.
All right, I'm happy.
Okay. So you know what? Are you okay if we look at the other ones? Because now you've got me hooked. All right.
Sure, absolutely,
So let's look at
absolutely.
the Ashen Forged.
I can give you details on any of them.
Tell me about the Ashen Forged, because those look like dreadlocks and two blades. And before I was on the lizards. It's really hard to decide.
So about a millennia ago, there was a galactic, galaxy-wide war over over the Crucibles,
Hmm.
and it was basically like most of the spacefaring species against a species known as the Lorendi that have their own little dominion in space.
Yeah.
Um, the Dendis, who are sort of they're the ones that are able to read the code of the Crucible and harvest that infinite energy that comes from them. They use that energy to build um, a an organic um, sorry, I know the words and I'm kind of drawing. I'm drawing a blank on myself now.
You're fine. You're
But
doing
what
great
they did
today.
was they organically synthesized beings in order to fight this war for them, and they were used basically by taking the organs like the brain and the heart of the fallen and building an organic shell around them. And these became the first Ashen Forged, which were pretty much like a an army of drones, so to speak, to fight the war for them. But because they were imbued with the powers of the Crucibles, these Ashen Forged were living beings that started developing their own, minds and thoughts and personalities. And by the end of the war, the Dendis, said, well, we just created a species of people. Like, we can't, the Dendis were enslaved themselves, and they're like, we can't just keep them under our rule.
Hmm.
So they just let them free. And the Ashen Forge just went out into space, and they became their own spacefaring culture.
That's dope as hell. Oh, all right. Well, now I'm just struggling because they're all gonna be like this to me, aren't they?
the
Is okay. So the Belare. How would I pronounce that one?
the Bellari.
Belare. This is what is happening here?
The Bellari are energy creatures. They're made
Oh,
from
so
positive energy,
that thing in the
and
center is like their energy, and this is just
yeah,
cool
yeah.
as
The gold
hell.
thing inside of them is them, and they live inside a containment system that's built into like a humanoid frame, and they are only able to because they're actually only able to interact with the rest of the galaxy in this way because their very nature that lives inside that suit is harmful to the matter that's around them.
Oh, so it's not even like they're doing it to protect themselves; they do it to protect others.
Well, to protect themselves as well. Like
Yeah.
they
Okay.
don't a I guess to put it rules wise, a Bellari that actually tries to exist outside their suit
Mm-hmm.
is everything around them is sort of poisonous to them,
Oh.
and their energy sort of dissipates uh, into the environment, and it weakens them and eventually kills them.
Wow. Okay. I am all about this. I'm about every aspect of this. Okay. Yeah, that kind of blew my mind a little bit. The dentist that we talked about those very
So
briefly. Whoa. What? Oh, I love the colors.
yeah, that's totally uh, credit to our one of our primary artists, Santi Casas. He and I just clicked. I was like, I want something that looks like this. He's like, what about this? And each and every time I'm like, well, that's perfect. we're gonna go with that.
Okay, so someone mentioned in the chat, are those is that just the armor or are their feet actually like that?
Their feet are actually. their legs and feet are actually like that, but they're covered in armor.
Whoa, oh, that's cool.
But that's what they actually, yeah, their appendages actually look like that.
Can you tell me a little bit about the dentist then?
Sure. The Dendis are one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They one of their primary features is they're the species that has constantly fallen and gotten back up. Their entire civilization has been destroyed multiple times. One during the last Great War millennia ago. Before that, they were enslaved by the insectoid spacefaring species known as the Zemaron,
Mhm.
and the Zemaron had totally annihilated their culture, and they're one of the Danish are builders,
Mhm.
and because they are builders and because they are researchers, they're also rebuilders. You can never put them down.
Yeah.
And they are the only species that have mastered reading the code, as they term it. Actually, it's sort of a language that is spoken by the crucibles, which is what enables them to harvest the sorium energy. So the Dendis have gone from pretty much being like an enslaved race as far as the Zamaron are concerned, to probably the one of the most vital parts of the galaxy,
Yeah.
and how it functions.
Oh, that's
There, the tentacle hair,
right.
which you notice is very similar to the Ashen Forge, because they created the
Yeah.
Ashen Forge.
That makes
So
sense. So it's okay.
so the
Yeah.
tentacle hair is actually one of the ways that they speak. They're able to use it, or use their um, to communicate by
Mhm.
motion and send telepathic
Ooh.
thoughts between them.
What? I like that. I like that a lot. I like communication that involves not necessarily just speaking. So that's always cool to me. Okay. Eldori. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right. These ones are the ones that, like, I look at this and
Mm-hmm.
it's what screams sci-fi to me. Like,
Yeldori.
yes, I
Yeah.
don't know why it is, but like sleek white armor, blue skin and black hair, just it hits sci-fi for me in all the boxes for whatever reason. That Okay, so I'm going to make a completely blind assumption on them.
Okay.
Highly technical, usually very like logical or reasonable, um potentially considered calculating but not necessarily always. Is
Not really.
cool,
No.
awesome, hell yeah. I wanted to be wrong. Tell me all the ways I'm wrong.
Not really. No. They are. I guess the one thing you got right. I mean, not exactly logical. More so. Ordered in a sense. They are very connected to nature and balance, and uh, they're actually half of an older species. So that war that I was talking about that happened a millennia ago, that happened because of their species.
Mm-hmm.
They had lived on their planet, and they did not know that one of their moons was actually a crucible. It activated, it devastated their entire planet, their entire ecosystem, everything. So they began to rebuild their people. That blue skin, by the way, that you're looking at,
Mm-hmm.
is actually um, it's actually I'm going too deep into the weeds. We'll let everybody read about those.
Ooh, oh, so there's a reason for it
Going
though.
too deep into the weeds on that.
Yeah.
But what basically happened was they started rebuilding their home. Part of them were changed differently by the
Mm-hmm.
Crucibles. They were actually on the nearby moon. Uh, these people decided that because of their abilities that they were exhibiting.
Yeah.
All of the Nasiv originally, when the Crucible activated, started exhibiting minor Esper powers. So it's almost like superpowers awakening,
Mm-hmm.
out of nowhere, and nobody knows what to do, and it's all chaos. And part of their people said, well, the gods above must have given us this power in order to, do something, to become the leaders of the galaxy.
Yeah.
And they decided that they were going to leave their people and start to forge their own empire, and they became the Lorendi. They were the ones that started the war for control of the galaxy and for control of the Crucibles.
Interesting. Okay.
So the Eldori, being completely the opposite of that, decided that they were going to rebuild the galaxy and sort of mend its wounds in a way.
That's cool. It's a nice, yeah. I like we need more of that. Okay, so I see there are humans. Are they
There are humans.
are the
Uh,
humans in like are they necessarily special in any way?
um, I mean, just about as special as any of the other species that are there.
Fair.
Humans, if I were to pick a favorite species, I guess
Mm-hmm.
I would pick humans, but not for the reason anybody would really think.
Okay.
Humans in this galaxy are technically the children. Here
Oh. Yeah.
they're a fledgling species to the alliance that's known as the Sorium Accord, and they're actually branching out and pretty much finding their footing as to where they belong in this new galactic society.
Yeah.
Uh, the reason why I actually liked the way humans had come out is because I had decided that because humans were so fragmented
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of years later, some had lived on Earth, some went out into space, some had lived on different planets.
Yeah.
So I created different versions of humans.
Okay. Yep. So that's where the
So
subtypes come into play, right?
yeah, so you have your typical Earth human that everyone enjoys playing out of the 5e books.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have your utopian type that lived up in the clouds, and then you have your spacers that are out there, and then because of wonderful human conflict and ingenuity, part of the Earth is actually ravaged by
Mm-hmm.
by the energy that came from their crucible, and it created these pockets of just destruction called seeds.
Yeah.
And some of those humans live there, and they uh, pretty much like a Mad Maxy kind of kind of human variant that lives there, dealing with all of
Interesting.
the horrors that live within the seas on
So
it.
then I'm gonna click the scorched variant, and I won't go into the others. Um. Oh, okay. Athletics, long blade auto pistol, traveling in extreme heat or cold. That's a nice touch, and it rewards putting those things in, especially for the GM.
Yep.
That's rad. I'm still. Ooh, this is a harder choice than I thought. Okay, let's go into the Kesh, and right here I see what looks to be like a tank that is a person.
So that representation, the Kesh are actually a lot thinner. That's a Kesh in a heavy armor
Okay.
suit.
Okay.
If you go a
Cool.
little bit down, you'll actually see like an unarmored Kesh. They they
Oh.
they vary, yeah, they vary in height and size,
Okay.
and they're a culture without a history.
Oh,
They are
interesting.
eternally spacefaring people that live on ships. Uh, an event that happened, so another thing I won't get into,
Okay. Okay.
but basically they had lost their home. They don't know where they come from. They don't really know any history beyond whatever they have in the records of their ships. So
Wow.
they are constantly wandering the galaxy looking for where they came from. They technically don't belong anywhere. Over the centuries, what they've done is the reason why their faces look like that is because they can actually shape change their faces to mimic other species, so that way they can integrate themselves into different societies and learn more information, or or learn about other people's cultures and connections to their own.
That's what's up. That's cool as hell. Yes. Okay. Okay. I like the Kesh. I like the Kesh. We did the Matakai. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't look at the Prometheans.
All right, so Prometheans. Remember, I was talking to you about those spacers.
Yes.
One of the big things that humans started doing uh, centuries ahead was genetic engineering,
Mm-hmm.
and this was mostly being done by a lot of the space colonies that had gone to war with Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And the what had basically happened was the schism was so vast between uh, these societies of humans,
Yeah.
and one of them, which eventually became the Prometheans, were pretty much just genetically engineering the human species in like a search for perfecting humans.
Mm-hmm.
And what they decided to do once the galaxy pretty much opened wide to them, they said, "Well, okay, forget the rest of these lesser Earthlings. We're gonna go out and become our own species and our own race of peoples, and become sort of like the super version of humans."
The
And that's what the
Prometheans.
Promethean are. Unfortunately, the one of the lessons learned that I made sure to put in there is that there is no such thing as perfect. So
Well done. Good call.
where in their search for perfection, they actually also ended up uh, scaling away the versatility of their own people.
Interesting. Rad. Oh, that's cool. Very cool. Okay, and then the last are the Valna, correct?
Yep.
What? wasn't I wasn't expecting that. That's awesome. Just
So
yeah, I'm just gonna leave this
yeah,
with you
the Vano's one of those. The Vano is actually one of those species you could probably look at and already guess.
because that is a space cat.
Yeah, 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 very much.
Dope.
And they, um, their planet is like probably the most living, breathing planet in the galaxy, and it is filled with intelligent animals. I guess is the where the Vana is sort of your top of the food chain
Oh, that
in that
checks out.
respect.
I love like the laser claws on the armored hand, and God, that figure just looks like they're going to leap like 10 feet in the air, then 20 feet off of a wall that they leaped into in the air, and just spear me through. And honestly, I probably deserve it.
That's okay. So do I.
Yeah, yeah. See, exactly. Feral duality. God, that's so cool. What?
Yeah, they're as much beast as they are. I guess human would be a not really the term to use, but you get my drift.
Yeah. Xenobiology. Oh my gosh. Who are you, cat person? I'm not sure because there's a lot of really cool species in here. Um and I feel like you made them aesthetically pleasing. You made them different. Or if they are similar, it's clear that they're off branches of similarities, like we talked about the humans and the Prometheans.
Right.
Um,
Well, one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to make each species a part of the galaxy.
yeah.
So not only do they have, not only is there a reason for them being as they are,
Mm-hmm.
more due to just like environment or the their societal situation or where they
Yeah.
come from, or that's all integrated into whatever features they have. um, but they also have not only their own history, but they have a history with each other.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. It. My first reaction looking at these is that it's hard to pick which one I would want to play, and I feel like that's a great thing. Because I'm like I like it's genuinely a struggle of like uh I really like the Dendis. I really
Hmm.
like the Adore. I really like the Bellari. I really like the Valna. And though like I enjoy the other ones, but those four like stuck out to me initially. I'm like, okay, yes, I want to make a character like that. But then I'm like, crap. But that's four. That is four different types. So I'd have to let the thing decide for me.
That's good to hear.
Yeah,
But,
duh. That's just and it's
yeah, and everyone that I've spoken to actually has, they have a different, each one has a different list
yeah.
of, oh, I want to play this and this and this, and everyone's list is a little bit different.
And that's not even going into the subtypes. like
Yeah.
like the humans had four subtypes. Oh, no, 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 no. The Ashen Forged. I don't know. I saw the Ashen Forged. They look dope. I love the design. Yes, it is difficult, and I'm very excited about that. Cool. Oh, natural armor. All right, Ashen Forged. Nothing else matters. I'm sold. I know where I'm at. And that's just the species that you have in here. There's so much. There are the classes, subclasses. There are the ships. There's like maneuvers, monsters. Um, do you have something that you would like to like one of those categories that you want to talk about next, more than anything else?
Well, uh, getting really quick into the classes. It's
Let's,
sort of the
let's do it.
it's sort of the opposite end of the of where the species comes in. The species are completely and utterly new,
Yeah,
but because we had a whole bunch of new species, we had to have sci-fi classes with very new concepts but very familiar mechanics,
that makes
because
sense.
we didn't want to we didn't want to throw out the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
So
That makes
you do
sense.
have you do have your you have a lot of your standards. You have your warrior, who basically is a sci-fi fighter, with guns and grenades and things like that. You have your specialist, which is more like a computer hacking sort of spy assassin kind of thing. So your 5e concepts are very similar, but the I guess the theme and the mechanics are different. Um, I probably one of the best examples is the engineer.
Okay.
The engineer, if you actually look at the engineer mechanically, or at least to the base sense of mechanics,
Okay. Let's take a
if
look.
anybody's played a cleric, they're like, oh, I kind of recognize some of the things that are there, but the engineer is really nothing. Mechanically is where the similarity ends. In reality, like they wear this harness, this device. Actually, they engineers carry a device on them called a rig, and the rig opens up, and they're able to use the implant that they have to create tools and drones and weapons and things that are able to assist them, and and their companions, which is, so thematically they are completely off the board, but mechanically the familiarity is there. That's kind of what I was looking for. I didn't want a really big learning curve to play the classes.
That's smart.
um, the
That's the way to
Melder,
do
for
it.
example, who is your uses your the majority of your big Esper powers.
Yeah.
They are matter shifters. in a sense.
Ooh.
The concept is different. They draw energy and they release it in another form, and they do that using their own body. So each every melder has a pool of talent points that they spend. Every time they use a talent, they expend points, and once they get down to a minimal amount of points, they can still you know change some of the energy out in desperation, but that could cost them heavily as far as like physical damage or in that sense. But again, thematically, that's the way it is. If you look at a wizard or a sorcerer or something, you can go, oh, okay, well, I can look at kind of the rules and I can figure it out
Yeah.
without me spending an hour looking at that. That's kind of what I wanted to cover on
It's similar to pick up.
On classes. Starships is a whole different thing.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. Probably getting into that would be something that I wouldn't mind talking about at all. I'm actually very excited about how it came out to where everyone got into it a lot faster than I thought they would, which was the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
The goal was for everybody to be able to look at brand new rules and for maybe about 10 minutes or have somebody explain it to them and go, okay, I know how to do this, and then
Cool.
go. And without there being a whole convention
Yeah.
on how everything works. Starships work very similar in Starships work very similar in the sense that everything still runs using the same amount of time. So
Okay.
if you are in the middle of a starship combat, for example, everything still runs in rounds. So that means you can have a space battle while you have invaders on a ship, while you have another set of a group like trying to infiltrate a base somewhere or whatever, kind of your Battle of Endor kind of thing. You can
Oh
do
my
that
gosh.
just by going through the regular turns
Mm-hmm.
without missing a beat. And that's one of the things that I actually enjoyed. I like the way that it came out in that sense. The other thing I enjoyed about the other thing I like about the starships is that, like I said before, it creates a level of teamwork that doesn't exist yet in in a 5e game. Everybody has their individual, I'm this cool, a badass, person that's going to do this cool thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's me doing it. And then the next person's going to go, no, that's not the way the starships work at all. It's okay, it's our ship's turn. Everything stops. All right, what are we going to do? What maneuver is the pilot going to do? If the pilot does this maneuver, how does that affect the gunners? Okay, this system's off. What are the technicians going to do? And all of that gets decided, and then the chain of maneuvers happen. And it's kind of like it all has to get discussed because, for example, the pilot decides they're going to perform evasive maneuvers, and as soon as they do that, then the gunners are going to have a hard time shooting because the ship's moving all over the place. The technician has the option of taking their bonus action and say, well, I'm going to adjust the targeting systems, so the gunners can fire, or the technician can say, well, I can't do that because I have to spend my action doing something else. I have to repair the ship, or I have to do that. And it's the way that it's integrated and the way the decisions get made
Mm-hmm.
is very different from ground combat.
Okay.
There's also the matter of three-dimensional movement. That was actually another thing where I said to myself, as far as the 5e thing was concerned, where I made this whole complex thing about three-dimensional movement, and it had gotten to where it was like, well, we were sort of constructing this whole map concept
Yeah.
based on starship combat, and I said, I don't want to do that. That's not fun. It's not the fun everyone's used to.
Yep.
So I said, well, there's no ground, right? So people can or other ships can occupy the space of on a map of another ship,
Yeah,
and you just kind of use your imagination. They're over you, they're under you,
I
or
like that.
or anything like that. And because it works just like ground combat, 5e ground combat is automatically assumes that everyone is constantly in motion doing something.
Hmm.
And I figured, starships should work the same way. Everyone's in constant motion, moving around each other, strafing and firing, and that's the way it's presented.
That makes sense, and it works out well. It's like just how you see it in your mind, and then it's narratively just blending it together. That's cool as hell. Ha. You've done so much for this module to really make it come alive. Because we only took a brief look at those 9 different species, but 9 is a lot, and that's not counting like all the little bits that go into the subtypes. Right in the book, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ships to go off of in the base book, and then there
Mm-hmm.
was like 2 more that are in the first adventure, I think.
Yep.
Getting both, you have a hell of a lot of ships that you can work with, and just looking at them, like they seem like there are great guides for like how to actually build that stuff up for people as they're playing the game and experiencing it and running it.
Yeah,
There's a good.
the goal was to not have like a long pause to
Mm-hmm.
have to stop and open up a whole new rule system and say, oh, we got to do this and that. That's also why the ship sheet uh, is built the way it is as well. They actually it was translated pretty pretty efficiently into Roll20, and all the calculations are there. So as soon as you're looking at the rules and saying, okay, you fill in your bonuses for your crew, and
Mm-hmm.
then all of the ship stats will tell you how to calculate, armor class and maneuver defense and the hull points, and you take your technicians, intelligence, you add it to this, you multiply by that, and that's your number, and you fill that in on a sheet, and it's kind of like having a universal character sheet.
Oh,
That
I see that. I made a character sheet, and it gave me the option to do PC or Starship, and just clicking
Mhm.
Starship, it was, yeah, it lets. That's interesting. Let me put some values in there. Oh, and then it takes a couple things from like the co-pilot or commander, and then yeah, it really just takes everything and puts it all together. That's
Mhm.
cool.
Because every ship, so anybody that plays any of the adventures, once they get into a starship combat, whatever ship they're controlling is going to be different from another group's ship, because the role that you pick actually affects the ship's stats.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a pilot with
Neat.
a lower dex but a higher wisdom, their maneuver defense is going to be better, but their armor class is going to be worse.
Mm-hmm.
And your uh, your character's bonuses really affect how combat runs.
Yeah, that's cool. I like being able to have like the ship sheet, and then it's like the Roll20. You can literally just set it so that all players have access to it, or
Mm-hmm.
just to that kind of thing. But then like they can also like change their own individual stuff. So as it updates, that's really nice collaboration. Damn, cool job. So there is a couple new skills as well. I see astrophysics,
Mm-hmm.
uh, mechanics,
Yep.
and xenobiology. Are those the 3 new ones?
There are four.
For
Uh,
oh,
there is
computers. Computers is in there
computers.
as
Yeah.
well. Can you tell me about astrophysics, but in a sense that a non-astrophysicist would understand?
Astrophysics mostly is pretty much the way it's defined. Your knowledge of the different, I guess, the nature of the galaxy, how it functions,
Mm-hmm.
how stars are aligned, how space travel works, how all that stuff is incorporated into astrophysics.
Okay.
Uh, and obviously your basic stuff like I need to chart a course to a certain planet. That's an astrophysics.
That makes sense.
Chart.
Computer seems pretty self-explanatory. But is there something extra on it that might not be like obvious that people consider?
So computers is more along the lines of so a lot of players forget that in a 5e game, even though you're not proficient, in a skill, even if it's not part of your class or
Mm-hmm.
a bonus that you get from your race or your species, you can still do it.
Yes, I
So
agree.
it's automatically assumed that every Esper Genesis character can use a computer, or use like the basics of a computer. So if you don't have proficiency in computers, it doesn't mean that you can't use one. That's not a and computers is like a big thing for that. Mechanics
Mm-hmm.
is like a big thing. Everyone kind of knows the basics of the things that are there. So a character who's really skilled in computers is really skilled in computers.
That
They're
makes sense.
able to write programs and understand different languages and code, and it also uh, is a skill that is used a lot in the sim, which is so there's kind of a world within a world
Mm-hmm.
called the Silrain Intergalactic Matrix, and it's a
Dope.
galaxy wide virtual internet. I guess is a sense
Dope.
is the phrase for it. I'm gonna use right now, and the rules for interacting with the sim are kind of basic. It's presented in a couple of the adventures.
Mm-hmm.
There is a much broader presentation of it in the upcoming Master Technician's Guide. We had fleshed out all of the rules for the sim and for interaction, but it's
Yes, please.
yeah, it's kind of like a virtual world where uh, hackers and and people who are skilled in computers, they might have a bit of an edge over your your layman
That's interesting.
that's wandering around in
You have
there.
a whole virtual world built in while also having the entirety of space.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's literally everything that you want to do in this game. Like so just from that, you've recreated the ability to A, create their own original sci-fi universes. B, play inside of this don't play inside of this fantastic universe you've built already, or C, use existing universes that they have ideas and they want to play in, and then use Esper Genesis to run in it. Because
Hmm.
literally looking at this, I can think of Star Trek, Star Wars, Mass Effect, like the list just goes on.
Yeah, you listed three of the main inspirations for
Oh my
for the game.
gosh.
So
Oh, that's so
uh,
cool.
the technician's guide is also uh, we're we're further behind on its development than we intended, but we're
Mm-hmm.
actually kind of creeping towards the finish line now on it,
Yes.
and that's going to have things like right now you have your starship combat that's very you know um, X-wing Tie Fighter kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing, or slightly larger ships, where you have like a motley crew of individuals,
Yeah.
and what we're introducing into Editions Guide is going to be, and that's actually what's presented on the sheet that's already there, is large scale, grand battalion ship combats with a captain and a full crew, and uh, all of that happening, and being able to run that at the same time that you're running all the little smaller ship combat and running the ground combat. It was we had to uh,
Yes, please.
put a lot of study into the flow of how everything was going to work.
Yes, please. So what I'm hearing is, by the time that I've finally mastered my understanding of this system, I'll be able far enough in the future, because that's gonna take some time because you have a hell of a lot in here. Uh, by the time I at least know generally the stuff of what I'm doing, I'll probably be able to run massive scale, large, like space warfare.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, y'all. This is now an Esper Genesis fan channel. Sorry, all the other tabletop stuff is just we'll just talk about that next month. I'm just gonna be spending time building characters and recreating worlds that I already like.
That was the main goal, actually. The main goal of Esper Genesis from the very beginning was to keep the fun of what everybody enjoys about 5e, to not take that away, to put it in a sci-fi setting, and to give them something to play. But the end game is it's a galaxy, or it's a universe, or it's a dimension. It's however big you want to make it, and you can pull from whatever you want, from whatever and put it in there, and it works.
That's so cool.
And that was the main goal from the start.
That's so cool. I legit already have ideas. Okay. I got distracted. So, xenobiology.
Xenobiology. Xenobiology is very it's self-explanatory without being self-explanatory.
Yeah.
what am I? It's your the knowledge of life, living things, and how they interact with the different environments in the galaxy.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. That's straight to the point. Neat. Oh, okay. Because I realized there's no nature.
Well, no, not really, because nature is there are a few skills that we had removed, because they don't really follow
that makes sense.
Broad galaxy-wide sci-fi concept.
Nature,
the concept of nature is different depending on where you are.
That makes total sense to me.
Yeah, that's wow. Not really a necessary skill. Religion.
Yep, fair.
The entire concept itself is earthbound, so to speak. We just assume that it's out in the galaxy, where maybe it may not be, or it may not even matter. And let's see. I believe lore sort of replaced history.
That makes sense. I didn't even think about that. I just had
your knowledge. Yeah, your knowledge of a particular subject, may or may not be linked to whatever historical fact you're looking at. So we figured that the concept of lore fit better.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't. I don't remember what else we removed.
That's it. That seems like most of them, because we did.
Oh, Arcana. For obvious reasons.
Yes. Yeah. That's interesting. Oh, that's cool. And so I have been told there's, well, at least I've heard rumors of a potential character mancer. Is that something that may come in the future?
That is actually in the works.
Yes.
Last I heard, it's soon. At the first quarter of this year. So
I'm excited. The character mancer is something that I rely on more than I'm proud to admit, but it also
it's so much easier.
It really is. And especially it makes things like, because this system right here, the Esper Genesis, just from sitting here and talking with you about it, it's very clear that it's both friendly to experienced players of 5e and newcomers of like any sort of like really tabletop, like 5e in general. And that character mancer, it setting it up and doing the math and organizing everything for them makes it a whole lot easier for them to learn what they're doing, rather than have
the same thing.
Yeah, it's like, rather than be like, okay, putting all these things in this spot, I don't know what the hell this is. This thing can attack, that shocks me. Or like armor class, which like once you know what you're doing, it comes together. But armor class has so many different ways to formulate it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm very excited. Okay, so something that people are always spending so much time looking through, present company included, because I know who I am. I know there is a hell of a lot of new items for this system. Are there like
Okay.
any that like you really would like to highlight?
Uh, all right. I'm I'm gonna do this gently here because what we did, the items that we have planned that I'm most excited about
Mm-hmm.
actually haven't been released yet,
That
or
hey, no, that's fair though.
at least roll 20 wise.
That's fair.
Uh,
Give us more
you
things
know,
to look
we
forward
had
to.
released the our we released sort of a free PDF preview on the Esper Genesis website for the Master Technician's Guide. Technician's Guide
Nice.
basically has all of your big, you know, super cool space items,
Ooh, okay. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the item system that we created is very different. This is where it sort of really differs from standard 5e, because you have things like you know weapon attachments and mods that can go onto your armor or your weapon that do different things, and espers have their own section of items that that sort of grow in power using stones that they attune to, and um, so like you kind of have like the same item from the beginning of your character's career to the very end.
Mm.
Uh, so that's on the that's on the horizon. Um, right now, what there are some of these items that are presented during the upcoming adventures that are coming up, and a lot of them are going to be limited use items. There are a couple of mods that are presented in there. The gear, however, that is available in the core manual, that's you have sci-fi gear, which
Yeah.
means you also have guns. You have guns, you have grenades, you have grenade launchers,
Saw that one.
sniper rifle. Things that dramatically change the nature of combat,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense. Um, we had put together a weapon and armor system that had worked under the assumption that armor was built to withstand modern armor was built to withstand modern weapons.
Yes, that makes sense.
So so there is no having a gun in D&D, for example, is it's a gun, it's a special item, so to speak, so it does like more damage or different damage.
Yeah.
This isn't the case because guns here have existed for you know
However
hundreds of
long.
years.
Yep.
We build protections against that. So, like unarmored characters, for example, can carry things like they have like a personal shield generator that
Oh.
um, that can stop like the major damage that can be done from a firearm, or something like that, instead of wearing armor, if they're not proficient enough to wear armor. Uh, other than your guns or grenades, you have your miscellaneous sci-fi gear, grapples and maglocks, and you know cutting torches, and little devices, a security sensor and scanner, little things that we actually take for granted in modern society,
Mm-hmm.
that will exist in the game to use.
Are there
So
like
a lot of techie gear.
are there like breaching rules and stuff for like breaching another ship from the outside?
There there aren't in the core manual, but yes, those exist.
I love this. The way you phrased that was one of the most satisfying things because it's like that I it makes me realize how much more excited I am for the technician's guide.
Yeah,
And I haven't even looked through more than half of this yet.
we've been trying to technician's guide. We had planned to release actually long before now.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunate life events
Yep.
have caused.
Life makes everything hard.
Yeah, life makes everything harder, especially when you're a very small team of people. trying
Yes.
to put out trying to put out something that that everybody can play and enjoy. We decided to focus more on quality than quantity in that respect.
Way to do
So
it.
um, I want to make sure that, especially since the technician's guide is one of those tools that you can really use to transform the game into whatever you want. There's also rules to actually just construct your own ship from scratch and put in whatever you want. I needed to make sure that all of that works the moment that we put it down,
Mm-hmm.
for people to consume, and b that it doesn't break that original promise that I made to myself, and that's to not to not just soak the fun out of 5e with
Yeah.
just excessive mechanics. And
It's a hard balance to find, and especially to keep. Like after you set that standard, it's like, okay, how do I make sure I keep this
yeah,
throughout all of the next pieces that I do?
especially with sci-fi. Sci-fi is, fantasy is very cool. Fantasy has a lot of different concepts and a lot of different settings, but it's nowhere near as broad as the different types of science fiction that are out there. And to try and push in as much of that as possible into a rule set is it's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
Wow. There's there's so much. This is okay. So this is, I keep saying okay, but that's something that I do when I get really excited about stuff, and like my brain is like, there's a million things to think about, Gabe. Try to think about one at once, and it's like, no, that's not happening. Um, how so? Okay, there's the Shadow of Zephyr. How many do you have, like an estimate of how many parts there are going to be in that entirety?
Shadow of the Zephyr has 11 parts.
11.
There's 10. Uh, well, as far as tabletop
Yeah.
or paper puzzles, there's 10 out now. We have one more coming, and so we just we put 1 and 2 out on Roll20. There's a few more to come,
To a few, you
and
say.
they all follow. Um, I mean, you can play them individually, but they all follow a particular sequence of events that just like anything else, like an organized play season. If you play them in order, they actually form a storyline.
Yeah. Wow. God damn.
What we're planning on doing next season, and
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be kind of interesting to do with both tabletop and virtual tabletop. I don't think we've actually conceptualized how we're going to manage that yet, but what we want to do with Crucible Core is uh, put in sort of like a reporting system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we want to put together like a sequence of major events that um, whatever the players decide to do, or whatever happens in that particular scenario, where that gets put down in in like a database,
Yeah.
and then we can measure out like the how many times did this event occur, how many times did that event occur, and whatever wins out actually affects the nature of the setting itself. What happens next?
Mm.
What goes into the next storyline or the next supplement that we put out. So that way, you get the um, I don't really. On my side, it's kind of like, well, once we put this together, I don't know what's going to happen yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
figure it out
That's
once the
totally
players
fair.
tell me what's going on, and then we'll put something that creates more of a living, breathing galaxy.
Someone said something, and it made me realize: are there creatures in space?
Oh yeah,
Oh hell.
yeah.
Okay.
Some of them are actually in the threats database. There are creatures in space that have a creature stat, and they're so large they also have a starship. They have a starship stat block.
What? That's horrifying, Rich. So what is a threat database?
The threats database is
Yeah.
is it's basically it's your Esper Genesis version of the monster manual.
Oh, okay, very cool.
Yeah.
I really like the name threat database for that. Then
Yeah, it's your collection of sci-fi beasts and monsters and robots and uh, a lot of the different NPC societies are in there.
mm-hmm.
Uh, Also in the threats database because we actually wanted to make it like a full book of threats to the galaxy.
Yeah.
So we introduced space hazards like if you're in a ship, asteroid field or wormhole, solar flare, any of those things that you come across, and how do you deal with those, when they happen, because that's a threat to your ship and your crew. We also introduced, we have a whole section in the back uh, titled Threats to the Galaxy that is detailing all of the different current events that's happening in the galaxy and all of the major organizations that actually pose a threat to galactic society and what's happening with them, and basically plants like campaign seeds for game masters to go on.
How many pages is this thing?
Threats database.
Yeah.
I I think it's almost 250 pages. I think.
Which that's a lot.
On the
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
there's a couple hundred stat blocks, and then the back of the book is the information about the rest of the threats, and the hazards actually only cover about 3 to 4 pages, I think.
So there's a question. Will future adventures or campaigns feature some of the named bad guys in the lore area of the threats database, like the Elders, for example?
Like the say again. I'm
So
sorry.
will future adventures or campaigns feature some of the named bad guys in the lore area of the threats database, like the Elders, for example?
Yes.
Ooh, so like
Yes.
so there is like some of the named characters that do have like stats that show up on the threats database, so they're going to appear in some of the future ideas that you have already.
Oh yeah. Yeah, everything that's introduced, we did the same thing that we did with the species in the core manual and
Mm-hmm.
all of the background stuff and all of the galaxy information. Because in the core manual, there's also a little galaxy chapter with a galaxy map.
Oh, good dope.
Uh, that I don't know if you'd be able to bring that up actually.
I should be
Um,
able to. You said it's a galaxy map?
yeah, I think the section in the compendium is called the galaxy,
Oh,
and
sweet.
there's a
All right, I will find that. And then yeah, Phil, please keep.
Um, so so yeah, so everything that's there
Oh, dope. I see
is
it.
not only integrated into the setting, but it's also integrated into the I guess what you can call the meta plot.
Okay.
There is a meta story to everything that's there and everything that's going on, um, and because all of the species and all of the threats, especially like some of the major organizations that are presented in the threats database, they have a history with each other, and they all have their goals and their plans, and a lot of this stuff is actually going to appear in the adventure storylines, in the official adventure storylines.
Okay.
And that was one of the reasons why we decided to do the major events idea, that because you have a lot of major NPCs and organizations that are going to be involved in the adventures, and they're going to be directly interacting with the players and their decisions,
Mm-hmm.
then it only made sense that whatever decisions the players make would affect the course of things to come.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. You've thought out so much of this stuff. And yeah, so again, for anyone watching, you can get the core book as well as the first two adventures on Roll20 right now. And if one of the mods will go ahead and plop that link in chat, there is so much stuff in here. There is literally like you can search through. There are God, there's so many built-in monsters already for this, like built-in creatures and everything. Which I saw the word Sandrake while I was just scrolling through really quick. That's horrifying. Um, did I see the word wolf? Oh, winter wolf. Awesome.
So,
Go ahead.
okay,
Go ahead.
I'll get into actually another thing about the threat database. We took a few of the beasts out of the 5e core,
Mm-hmm.
and we presented them in the threats database as sort of templates. We
Oh,
provided rules because every planet that you visit, the creatures are different.
that makes
Uh,
sense.
so instead, we did two things. We gave like a core set of OGL beasts, and said, here's what you can do. You can take these beasts or these monsters, and you can give them, you know, a different set of features, and we kind of provide like a list of ideas. Are they amphibious? Can they fly? Can they, you know, shoot electricity? Like, what can they do? Here's an idea for that. And then we also provided a set of like I think CR uh, 1/4, 1/2, and CR1
Mm.
stat blocks as like an empty template,
Oh,
and
neat.
then say, okay, choose your size. This is the hit points it has. This is the AC it has. These are like it may have one attack or two attacks. Here's a list. Decide what it can do, and you can sort of fill in like a base creature stat block, and then make up your own lore and history around it.
That's so cool. I there's artwork for every one of these creatures.
Yeah, we you know also want to make sure everybody knew what it looked like, what everything looks like.
That's so cool. And there was one that I clicked that I looked up real close to the screen. It's the Talvarius.
The Talvarius, yeah.
And then the Roll20 note: this creature can be encountered in individual combat or in ship-based combat. For its ship combat stat block, see this page.
Yep.
I hate that.
Yeah, you don't want to encounter that thing. It's
I hate it. Looks scary as hell. I saw caustic breath, its gigantic sharp teeth, and what looks to be like basically plated skin. Oh my gosh. Esper Genesis, y'all. Don't ask me about anything else for the next month. No, 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 no. Planetary beast. No,
well, yeah,
no.
that's your empty base stat block in Planetary Beast.
Oh my gosh. That's cool. Wow, what the hell, Rich? You may have just changed my world. This is really, really cool.
Happy to help.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the praise
Oh my
very much.
gosh. Yeah, so like if any of you get the chance, please check out Esper Genesis. Rich, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about to like the people here or anything? Anything that you want to
Uh,
just flex on or be like, yeah, this thing was really cool, or like if you get a chance, check out this thing, or like anything.
well, I mean, I'm excited that we're getting the Character Master soon. I'm really excited for the Technician's Guide that's coming. That should actually change a lot. Actually, a lot going on
I
in
need it.
the game itself. Uh, for right now, what I really enjoy about it coming to Roll20 is, you have people that can get together at any time and do something sci-fi, have some sci-fi fun with
Yes.
ships and guns and lasers and things like that. I would recommend um, everyone take a look at both the core manual and the threats database. And again, the point is to even though there's a setting, to kind of make it something that's your own. Pick out your
Mm-hmm.
favorite sci-fi something. I can guarantee you there's going to be something in there that you can use to build on it. And even if you want to, I know it's not like a directly portable thing, but a lot of the familiarity is there.
Yeah.
with D&D and 5e. So if you already had a favorite, monster or concept or something that existed in something else 5e, that's already there, you can, look at it and go, well, I can just make this here in the sci-fi galaxy and decide what I want to do with it, or decide its history.
Yeah.
And that's really the goal, is to make a setting that doesn't end. Make a setting that constantly grows, and it just keeps going, and it keeps going in whatever direction you want it to go.
That's awesome. And I really think that you nailed it on the head. Like, sitting here and looking at it with everyone and you and talking about the stuff, like I hope it was very clear how genuine my excitement was about a lot of stuff,
It was.
just from like looking at the species, and then it got more and more, and like, okay, ships, okay, items, okay, classes, I need all of it.
It's that feeling again, that good feeling that you know
Yeah.
get people to get people to play together and have a lot of fun. That's the whole point.
That's why we make games. That's why we do all
Yep.
this. All right. Well, Rich, where can people find you across the internet and find more Esper Genesis stuff to fill what is going to be there and my daily needs of it?
Well, there is the espergenesis.com page that has a lot of information that I need to obviously add more to now. And there is Esper Genesis we have our own Facebook group that where actually a lot of the discussion happens. You have a lot of really invested players, and also the people that had backed our Kickstarter, that we've been feeding as much we can to them as possible. Anybody that pre-ordered Technician's Guide, by the way, they've been waiting for a while, so we've been sort of releasing just content to them. Here, have it, take it.
Yep.
And do whatever you want with it. And that's so there's a lot of discussion that goes on. People make up their own systems and rules, and people have their own podcasts going on in there. A lot of that community is also on the Esper Genesis Discord, where a lot of rules discussions and setting discussions, and a lot of that. So all of that can be found actually on the espergenesis.com page.
Cool.
The links are there. So me myself, I can be found on Twitter. I am at Skydawn1, SKYDWN, and the number 1. And that's kind of where I've been, other than Facebook, kind of where I've been hanging my hat right now.
That makes sense.
But yeah, that's where you can find me, or you can find any of the Alligator Entertainment crew off of the website. Email us, ask us questions.
Awesome.
Whatever you like. We engage as much as we can with our enormously busy life schedules.
Yep. Yeah. So go play Esper Genesis. Take a look at the stuff. There, even if nothing else, if you go into Roll20, there is a character sheet just up there that you can jump into and look at and familiarize yourself with it and create things. Like, that's why we do things. That's why we have fun. And yeah, Rich, I'm excited to see Esper Genesis grow. I'm excited to see more people being able to play it on Roll20. I'm excited to see the ease of people playing it, and I'm just excited for what happens next. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me about this. It was awesome.
Thank you for talking to me. Yeah. This was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh.
I generally have feels for seeing your excitement. It's always a cool thing.
Well, maybe we'll see what happens in the future. We might have you back for another episode when the Character Mancer stuff is up, and we can, if you're up for it, maybe we'll run a little bit of Esper Genesis, see how people feel, and see how it works.
That would be fantastic.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. Take care.